Okay guys, this is Cochise with Cochise Rome, weighing in on the weight classes episode 10B, the review of UFC FOX 1. Okay, this is going to be a little bit of a stranger weighing on the weight classes due to the fact that I couldn't watch all the fights. Just a few hours ago, I was able to watch some of the preliminary fights that weren't aired, and in time to get this done and to get, episode 11 done, I couldn't watch it all, but I'm just going to get into the one that I previewed, which is the Darren Yamamoto versus Kid Yamamoto fight. And I have to say that I'm speechless, but I also have a whole lot to say about this fight in particular. Yamamoto is not getting finished, and his cardio is still there, his speed is still there, but he just can't make a good game plan. Imagine GSP without any fighting IQ. I don't know what's going on anymore with this guy, because it's like, it's no longer the knee that is holding him back, it's himself or the people that are around him. You have to remember, or if you don't remember, know that Kid Yamamoto was similar to Brock Lesnar in terms of popularity in Japan not too long ago. I mean, he was knocking people out left and right in the same time as Super Arena. He had a hot-ass wife, and now he's losing on free Facebook fights to guys that are really unknown. And I say that he's holding himself back because he has the tools, but he doesn't have the right mindset or the environment to put those tools together and come up with a good winning streak for himself. You know, it's like the new breed of MMA fighters are really passing this guy by when they shouldn't be. And on a side note, Kid was supposedly the first MMA pothead, which is actually a prison sentence in Japan. There was a big controversy back in like 06 or 07 about him smoking weed. All right, so now let's get into Clay Guida versus Ben Henderson. I've got my notes here. Exciting, but not as competitive as people made it out to be. It was really Ben winning every single round, with maybe one moment in each round where, Clay Guida found a good spark to him. The second round was actually pretty dangerous for Ben Henderson with that very, very tight guillotine for those couple of seconds, but he managed to go to the side and get into side control position, and another spectacular submission defense displayed by Henderson. Let me go on. Like just as I said, Guida's excessive movement has not worked with technical fighters, be Kenny Florian, Diego Sanchez, and now Ben Henderson. And another thing about these fights I've just mentioned is that Clay is getting hit first, so he's always playing catch up in these rounds. This is particularly true with the Diego fight. Let me get a thing. He shouldn't be getting hit first if he's moving as much as he's moving. He's always playing catch up, and even the points where he's winning, it's like his opponent has already done damage. So, it's just like he's negating what happened to him, which is very difficult to win these fights. He has an exciting style, but it's also kind of his undoing, and it's keeping him away from being the #1 contender for the lightweight championship bout that I know that he really desires. Now, Ben Henderson will face Frankie Edgar in Japan. Not the best idea. If Japan can't fully get behind Aoki or Dream or K1, why does anyone think that they would get behind the UFC in the same division that Japanese organizations already have plenty of fighters for themselves? This card is not set, so I don't know exactly what the card is going to look like. But the thing is, I think that the lightweight championship bout should be either the main event or co-main event, and have that card display a couple of light heavyweight fighters or heavyweight fighters, things that fighters in events that Japan can't have themselves for this thing to work out. Other than that, let's get to the main event. Cain Velasquez lost his UFC heavyweight championship to Junior Dos Santos, and the only thing about this is it's difficult to review because this fight was about a minute long, and there was only about like 3 important hits. You know, Cain caught him once. Cain caught Junior Dos Santos in the face one time, and then after that, it was just, you know, the overhand right and the ground and pound that ended the fight. Everyone is talking about how Cain should have pushed the pace more and didn't hesitate. I mean, the fight, like I said, was only 1 minute long, so how fast should the pace have been in trying to go for a takedown? I mean, you know, Cain needs time to set these things up. It's not like he's just going to run, you know, and burrow, you know, Junior Dos Santos to the cage and take him down. And, you know, in 20 seconds, it's not going to happen. And another thing that I noticed in this fight was that Junior Dos Santos was actually fighting in almost a purely boxing stance with, you know, one leg forward. And this would probably be a wet dream for a wrestler to go and get the takedown attempt. Perhaps. I think that it seemed too easy, and that was the reason that Cain hesitated, because I think that Cain was feeling baited into the takedown, so he's probably thinking, maybe I have to mask these takedowns with some strikes, and that's probably why he didn't go directly for the lead leg. Because, you know, of course, or I want to say of course, but assuming that Cain's intelligent, he would know that Junior Dos Santos in his fighting camp has studied tapes of him. And so maybe he's thinking like, well, if I go for this takedown, they might have a counter for it and I may be in some trouble. So that's what ended up happening. And I don't know if they were booing Cain losing or booing Junior Dos Santos, but the crowd was very upset with that victory. Maybe they thought they didn't get a good enough fight. I'm not too sure. Okay, now with Brock Lesnar's last 2 performances, Cain, one-time champion, now Junior Dos Santos with the belt. Can we please stop the hype train? I mean, they were, or now they are, in Dos Santos' case, the UFC heavyweight champion. That's it. It does not mean that they're the best in the world yet. Josh Barnett, Fedor Emelianenko, Vic Nogueira, individually have almost, or perhaps for some of them, even more wins than Cain, Brock, and Junior have fights combined. So, you know, let's give it some time before we say someone is going to be, you know, the baddest man on the planet, and then he loses his next fight. You know, Brock Lesnar was the baddest man on the planet. He lost. Cain Velasquez, the baddest man on the planet. So did the UFC say. He just lost. So I don't want to see this happen to Dos Santos if he loses his next fight, which I hope he doesn't. I'm a big Junior Dos Santos fan. Alright, now the bigger question is whether or not the UFC FOX was a success. And unfortunately, I would have to say no. As a guy who has a YouTube channel that's been rendered solely for as an MMA channel, I'm part of the choir. People who are watching me talk right now, you, the viewer, you're part of the choir. The UFC Saturday Night sung a song for us. Did it expand into new territory? Well, kind of, because, you know, Fox is a huge network. Was it worth not having this fight on pay-per-view? Perhaps not. If you had it on pay-per-view, it could have showcased a lot of the preliminary fights everyone was talking about. You know, Ben Henderson, Clay Guida, why is this not on TV? Yada yada yada. It could have been on pay-per-view, and you know the thing is that I didn't really think about it until I saw the post-fight press conference with Dana White telling people to shut up about bitching about not having more fights. I mean, well, yeah, they can bitch. The UFC expects too much from people that don't really know what to expect from the UFC at all. People don't know anything about MMA. They have to know the rules. They have to know, you know, what the weight classes are. They have to know who are the favorites. They have to know why these fights are important. They have to know why a guy with more losses can be considered a favorite against a guy with less losses. And then on top of that, they have to know your business model. I mean, really, you're expecting a lot from people who have no idea what the UFC or mixed martial arts is about. if, you know, I don't know. I think perhaps Dana White was just pissed off that everyone was talking about why Clay Guida was not on the main card or was not shown on TV. Maybe he was just sick of it at that moment, but I really think that from a PR standpoint, that wasn't the best thing to say, especially if you're trying to expand to people who have no idea what you're talking about. Was this a failure? No, it wasn't a failure, but the room for improvement was very clear. Was it the best introduction or reintroduction to people that still think Royce Gracie and Ken Shamrock fight guys like Tito Ortiz and Brock Lesnar? Not so much, but hopefully when the deal starts and they have full cards going on Fox Network, things will be a lot better. But yeah, I do have to say, as an introduction, this was not the best thing for someone who has no idea what MMA is. Maybe they've heard of the UFC, but they don't really watch it. It's something in passing. This was not the best introduction, but by no means was it the worst. So, I don't know. Wearing out of mediocrity, you know, and losing the pay-per-view, which could have gained a couple of $1 million. I don't know. That's all I have to say about that. I'm right now currently working on my Best of 2011 MMA Awards, and there will not be a weight on weight classes for the Ultimate Fighter Season 14 finale just because I don't watch the show. Other than that, guys, check me out in about 24 hours time, and I will have episode 11A where I preview UFC 139, Shogun versus Henderson. All right, guys, take care.